forgetting to hit the record. So, um, we're having some latency issues today, so there might be some problems down the road. YouTube's being a little bit wonky, and anyhow, yeah, you just keep going with it. I hope everybody's doing well this morning. I feel a little bit better refreshed than last night. I got a good bit of rest last night. So, if you're out there, let me know. Um, I'm only coming through you on Facebook because, like I said, I here at the Colorado studio. Hold on a second. I should probably do this there. Say coffee. Um, I really need to get the internet situation fixed. The problem is I want to get satellite internet here, and I really don't want to get Starlink, but I'm looking at some of the other options, and there's two other satellite internet options, but I don't think they have as much mobility as Starlink does, and that's kind of what I need, and I hate that. Um, I'm just kind of holding on for maybe one of these other two companies will come up with something for um, mobile satellite internet. So ideally, satellite is going to be what I need up here. The only other option I have really is Comcast, and I don't want to do Comcast. I don't want to. I don't want to sign up for Comcast again. I don't want to go with that company. So ah, I always hate when there's issues. When you're trying to do something and it just anyhow. Um, man, I I'm a little bit late in getting coffee in me this morning, so it's amazing how much coffee does help. Um, I hate that I have to drink coffee. Um, otherwise, otherwise I need sort of like a nice hour to slowly adjust to the day if I don't have coffee. Just coffee helps get me to the front lines quicker, and get the brain going. I know it's all a lie. I know I'm still tired underneath it, but it's nice to be able to kind of hide it and get some stuff done when you need to get some stuff done. So I'm also sorry about the latency. I am recording this, so I will post that up afterwards. Um, it's just sort of the situation I am in until I get my satellite internet. Um, I'm kind of dealing with having to go through my phone with this. So, but still, kudos that I can do this through my phone hotspot. That's pretty impressive. But, but yeah, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to talk about today. I usually kind of figure out as I go, but my brain is a big, big fog right now. It's like there's this big fog of war with maybe one little bit of light in the middle of that fog where I'm sitting and trying to wake up and come up with something. I don't know. So, but again, this is all practice. It all comes back to practice. I keep putting my fingers in the ear. I need to stop doing that. It's so funny, just the things that you start noticing about your behavior when you start recording yourself with video cameras. You start noticing all the little things you do, like picking your ears, hands through your like hair, scratching your feet, all kinds of stuff. Not that that's very, very profound. I'm not really, you know, being profound this morning. I'm kind of on slow mo, but we'll get through it. Just trying to figure out what to do today. I might, just depending on who comes through, I might start working on let's go ahead and open it up. Might as well just go right there. Let me make sure. Okay, so yeah. So yesterday yesterday was all kinds of issues with software needing updates and things not being formatted or centered properly and not noticing it till the end. So, and I know I'm getting latency issues, which sucks, but I'm recording it. So I think I'm going to pull up, just show up, just show up. It doesn't matter. Um, it doesn't matter. Just keep going. One of these days, like the hope is that I get so comfortable with this that I start being entertaining and people will want to watch. But you got to get there. And that's where we're going to go today. So I'll probably work on this while people come through. Where is my pencil? So, as we talked about yesterday, this is sort of one of the first scenes, just sort of practice scenes that I'm working on for the graphic novel that I'm working on, and um, just you know, trying to figure out the formatting, trying to figure out the colors, trying to figure out the line work, you know, the tone, the atmosphere. Because like when you're doing a graphic novel, the things that you gotta be consistent about is that it all feels like it works and flows together. So, and in Arcane Arena, when I did that game, that was 46 pieces of artwork for the 46 different cards, plus all of the artwork for the marketing material and the box box art and all of that. And that was good practice, but now I'm going to be taking that and multiplying that by about 10. So I have a feeling with this graphic novel, there's going to be about, oh, I don't know, maybe 300 to 500 frames. I should probably research that. It's like, do I make it epic? And because like, one of the problems that I have when I read graphic novels is like I feel like I rush through it a lot. It's like um and it's normally the formatting of the graphic novel that is that way. It's like how do you get pacing and timing down in a graphic novel? I mean, I can see how you can do it uh in a movie like with film. You have the camera that you work with and all of those different frames, and you can work on the timing, but it's like there's a certain type of pacing, like when you're reading a novel, there's a certain cadence that the author puts into the words that helps kind of carry you along. And the authors that don't know how to play with cadence with their words and just kind of mess up the rhythms through all of the different pages, you kind of that's kind of one way to lose the reader. So what I'm trying to do is I want first off, I want the artwork to express as much of the story as possible. And then mostly what you're dealing with is the dialogue that gets interlaced over the top of it. But, it's a graphic novel is like doing a movie, but instead of having like 30 frames per second, you're just getting one frame here, one frame there, and you're just kind of like there's emptiness between the frames as opposed to film. You've got um, a continuum with all of the different frames that are going through there. So one of the things that I'm going to have to learn really quickly is learning how to pace it. Um, One of the things that I have learned about writing, like one of the biggest misconceptions I had of like not doing writing into now starting to do writing is, I always had this belief that writers and authors, they just write from beginning to end linearly. And, I'm now realizing how much of a joke that was, where as a writer, as an author, or as the creator or producer of a piece, you're you're looking at the whole story all at once, and you're you're just fine tuning it, and you're seeing this flow from above the story, and you're trying to make it all flow nicely. You're not writing linearly. You're writing like across you're writing sort of across all of time simultaneously. So that was like the big breakthrough I kind of sort of had. It's not a big breakthrough, but just one of the things, like, because I've tried writing in the past. I've tried, like, you know, I think in high school is when I first started trying to write like a fantasy book. And then, I'm just I really quickly learned that I am not a novelist. I am not a person that's going to write the great American novel. Just because words, I have fun, witty humor in conversation, but I don't know how to write and carry a reader through a story where without losing them, and or being boring, or droning, or feeling like it's just all a recipe that I am doing. Like, it doesn't feel natural. So I learned really early on that I'm not a novelist. Um, I also then went through a phase where I thought I was a musician, and I like music. Music's really good. I take to, like, luckily with I'm good with mathematics, so music can at least make sense. The problem I had with music, and when I was in a band, we like it just didn't feel natural. Like, it didn't feel like I could flow with it. It just didn't feel like I was connected. It was a direct conduit for my creativity. I could do it, but I struggled with it all the time. Being able to, especially with, I'm big on improvisation, and so that's what ultimately led me to doing artwork. It was around in my early 30s. I know I came up through architecture, so I had sketching down. I knew how to draw, but that was all on a technical sense. It's like when I moved into the artistic realm, that's when sort of everything opened up, and I felt like I found my instrument, in a sense. I found my way to communicate with what I was trying to say. And it was it was a big deal. It's just like, oh, this is it. This is what I have been looking for. So that was roughly about 20 years ago. Then that's when the writing kind of came back in, because the graphic novel that I'm writing well, I'm doing just one of the chapters just as a test to see, um, you know, if I can do it. Like, if you, as a creator, are faced with a big, daunting project that you don't know if you can do, break it down into a little bit, find a little segment of it that you can break it down to, and do it to the quality that you want to ultimately have all of it to be, just to see if you can do it. Don't just, like, all of a sudden just take on a um big project, and then you get in there and then you realize, I'm not going to be able to do this. No, you just try to break it down into little tiny segments. Good morning, Kristen. I'm sorry if I'm going to be breaking up or if there's any latency issues on this. Um, the I'm having problems with my network. I'm going through my phone. My Colorado studio doesn't have a good solid internet yet, so I'm having to kind of go through my phone. I'm wanting to get satellite, but I don't want to do Starlink because that's Elon Musk, and I don't like that man. And I'm looking at some other options, but unfortunately they're just not as good. I also have to remember that Elon Musk is just a poster boy for SpaceX. I don't know. He seems like a poster boy. He's just gotten really annoying. And I don't want to really fall into that. But it's good to see you. Welcome aboard. I know you were biking this morning. I'm not sure if you were biking or if it was raining, but it is good to see your name pop up. And yeah, I will have, I am recording all of this. So if there are latency issues, I am going to post the video of it afterwards. So, but, so yeah, so what I was talking about this morning is, I'm getting ready to work on the biggest project of my life. And well, to date, there's always going to be a bigger project that's coming down the pike. Because like when I started Arcane Arena, I was like, this is the biggest project I've ever done in my life. And it was in that moment. But now that was a stepping stone. I'm now moving on into this graphic novel, which literally for 20 years I've been wanting to do this. And it goes back to like 20 years ago when I started wanting to write this, and it's going to be based on my uncle's journals from Vietnam. And I was originally going to write it as a novel, and then I'm like, I start working on it, and that was like kind of like when I threw the pen down. I'm like, I am not a novelist. I am not a writer. I am not going to be able to do this. And I kind of just put it to the side, and I kind of got depressed for about 2 years because of that, because I really wanted to write this story. It's like, and like literally for 20 years, it's this little tiny bird that has been inside of my head, knocking on the inside of my skull, wanting to come out and say, "Hey, I'm here." Um, and So I got really, really depressed. Um, because I'm like, I can't do this. I can't write a novel. I am a boring writer. And I'm good with humor. I'm good with jokes. I'm good with memes. I can't write a novel. I don't want to write a novel. It's like I have strong appreciation for people that can write novels. Um, I'm just a visual person. That's my problem. It's like I don't think in words. I think in patterns and symbols and images. And it was maybe about 15 years ago when I was kind of talking about the story to somebody, and I forgot who it was. It was a random person that was coming through, and I was telling them about it at a I don't know somewhere, um, and they're like, "Well, why don't you do it as a graphic novel?" And then that was when I was like, I was like, "This story would make a killer graphic novel," and then it sort of ignited my excitement for the project again. And like I said, that was about 15 years ago. Um, but that opened up a whole new other can of worms where I'm like, I don't really have the chops to do a graphic novel. This was 15 years ago. So I had to sort of come up with a game plan of okay, if I want to do this, I need to learn how to do this. 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 And I came up with these little tiny little pieces. Like I need to learn how to draw humans better. I need to learn how to do composition. I need to be able to learn how to format a scene, that isn't sort of like two dimensional, like you just like you're looking straight at it. Like you got to get some dynamic sort of perspective in a lot of your scenes. There's a lot of God, I can never remember that Italian word. Ah, um, where you basically somebody's coming at you, but their fist is bigger, but their body's smaller. Like I can never remember what that's called, but it's like a warped perspective. Learning how to warp the perspective cleanly. That was another thing that I needed to learn. I needed to learn about how to keep a consistent palette. You know, how to draw a human face more than once so that you know that it's the same person. That's a very, very difficult task. You know, learning how to do hands, learning how to do gestures and movements and this and that. And so I developed all of these little tiny projects that I did along the way. And, you know, but, you know, it was still slow going. It wasn't until um, in 2019, um, that's when the opportunity to do the artwork for Arcane Arena came into play, where I met Chris, my business partner, Chris Torlucas, and he had created this game, but he needed the artwork for it. So I was just like, I'll do it because I was looking for something like Arcane Arena to do because I knew that I needed to like practice for Iron for the graphic novel that I'm writing. So Arcane Arena just be and then luck like I say lucky, the pandemic hit and I had all the time in the world to work on the game. And Arcane Arena gave me, you know, it took 2 years to like really get that artwork done for Arcane Arena. And it was a struggle because I was learning how to do digital painting. I was learning so many new things on the fly. We thought the game was only going to take 3 months to do all of the artwork. That was my silly thing. Yeah, I could do this in 3 months. 2 years later, um, I ended up, you know, did all the artwork and it became like that thing is like, okay, I can do the graphic novel now. I have the confidence that I can within me do this. Because you can say in your mind, in the fantasies that we play, in the imaginations that we have up there, I can do that. But then when you actually start doing it, it's like, I can't do this. Um, Arcane Arena gave me the confidence that, okay, I can do a graphic novel. And so here I am. So like this story that has been trying to come out now for 20 years is really on the threshold, getting ready to come on out. So I voila, here is the first scene from it. That I mean, it's still sketch. I mean, this is still very sketchy, but it's like you know, again, learning how like to do each of these frames in the graphic novel at a decent pace where it's not taking me a month to do each scene. Um, you know, luckily digital helps because I can I can take and morph things a little bit, and then as I get more and create more assets and content for the graphic novel, with the digital realm, I can move things and shift things around. So, because I knew when I did Arcane Arena that I knew I was going to need to do the artwork for that in the digital realm. And, you know, so I had to get a Wacom tablet and I had to learn, you know, how to paint through Photoshop. And, yeah, because this is Photoshop right here. And, you know, just I knew it was going to be a nightmare if I tried to just do it with pencil and paper. Because it's going to need to come into the computer anyway. All right, because you're going to need to process the images. Ultimately you're going to need to lay it out in a program like InDesign and like Adobe InDesign. So, you know, it's it was just a big huge step to take. So, and then learning how to do it on the fly. To give you an idea, the first um I wonder if I can bring it up. The first the first piece that I did for Arcane Arena, card design, card images. I don't know where I put them. Oh, there we go. Where is focus? Okay. So this was the first card that I did for Arcane Arena. And it was the first image that I did was the focus card. And this took, to give you an idea, this took a month for me to do. And it was a struggle and I'm just talking the artwork. I'm not talking about the card. It's just a little square where the artwork is. That took me a full month to get to the point where I felt like I could even like it was presentable. And then I continued to kind of adjust it and work on it through the next couple years. Um, this sketch took 4 hours, so that's the huge improvement from when I started to doing to now. And one of the things that a lot of people just starting out with things is one of the biggest hurdles to get through is understanding that, yeah, this thing that you just did took you so damn long to do, but you're going to get faster. All right. Like, but if you've never been through that process before, it could seem daunting. Like, oh my God, I'm never going to be good at this. You can't let that get into your heads. All right. You got to push through it. I mean, you got to focus. You got to focus on it, and you got to push through those barriers to get to it. All right. And that's what really kills a lot of emerging artists and creators in the beginning is when in their mind they're like, oh, I can do that. I want to do that. That sounds like something that I would be really, really good at. And then they start doing it. And when they start doing it, they come up against the wall of, the connection between the mind and the hand, is a muscle that needs to be exercised. So when they start working, going down the lines of, doing artwork or becoming an artist, and they get up against the barrier of like, oh my God, this is so hard. It's daunting. This first image that I just created, it took me a month to do. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to make money off of this. But you got to get past that because it's what's called a learning curve. And yeah, that first card that you did might have taken you a month to do. But let's see if I can give you an idea. So another idea, like the first one may have taken you a month to do. Let's see if I can find where one of the last ones was. But like which card was the last one? I'm not going to go with the last one. I'll go with this one. So, because this was a card that it was like I had just been struggling. I'd gotten about 4 or 5 cards in to Arcane Arena, and um, this one took a month to do. finally at about like the fourth or the fifth month in, like of struggling, I got to working on the card, the design for this card, and this took me a day. And it was one of those moments that was like, I can do this. I busted through that barrier, and okay, I was still struggling. I mean, there's the struggle, believe it or not, no matter how good you get, the struggle is always there because you're always trying to find new ways to do things. But one good thing is you learn how to learn. You learn how to learn new things, and you come up with practices and processes to bring in new things into your creative flow. So, you gotta bust through that barrier. And that's with anything, whether like you're bike riding, that first 10-mile bike ride, like, is probably like, oh my God, I'm dying. You know, Go forward maybe 4 or 5 months down the road, 10 miles is easy because you're knocking out 40. It's you got to give yourself the time and the patience and not destroy yourself, because here's the thing, you're going to struggle, and that's what really defines what art is. Art is about the struggle. It's the struggle that we have as creators with ourselves, that we are trying to do something, like we're trying to figure out how to, like, work out these new processes with our minds and our bodies, and you know a form of communication. It's like learning how to talk, learning how to learn a new language. So you got to bust through all of that. And you ultimately do. They say you need 10,000 hours to become a master at something, which is roughly about 10 years, I believe. It's like no matter how much talent you have, there's still processes that you got to learn. I mean, you may, like, being born with talent kind of gets you to the door, but it's your will and your drive and your push through that door is what's going to define you as the artist. Because I have seen artists that struggled because they weren't born with the ability to create, or to create a picture perfect image, and they had to work at it. And you can work at it, it's just like a muscle. And so, like, I have seen artists that were not born with an innate ability to do picture perfect images from the get-go, and are successful artists. And I've seen artists that, like, oh my God, you just like are amazing, but they couldn't bust through the barriers of, like, moving into the professional realm, because sometimes you rest on your laurels. It's like, I'm good, I don't need, and you don't push as hard. So I've seen people with lesser talent be more successful artists than people with, like, inherent talent just fail. So it's really about the will to be able to push through the, um like, getting better at something. It's like exercise. If you don't have the ability to push through the pain in the beginning, to get your body moving, to get your body flowing, you're not going you're going to struggle the whole long way. I mean, the most important thing in life is to be able to develop the ability to push through those barriers. And that is one of the most important things, is just developing a way to do that easy. And you break it down into simple little segments. You don't try to run, you don't try to do a decathlon your first day at school. I'm spilling coffee all over myself. But, yeah, you've got to learn. I don't know. Anyhow, let me try this again. There we go. But ultimately, you get there. And though it took me the first month just to get through this first image of Arcane Arena, I mean, you can see here now, it's like, here's all of them that I ended up busting out. You know, I had to do all of these different images for all of these different cards. And, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of ignorance helps because or I don't know if it's ignorance or if it's bravado. Sometimes they're kind of very like hard to distinguish between the two. But it was just like I had this inherent belief that like I know that I can. I don't know how to do this right now, but I know that I have the ability to figure it out. And I told myself, and my business was, yeah, I can do it. Um, and I did, you know, but it took 2 years. This was a 2 year project. You know, now I'm looking at a 3 to 4 year project that's about 10 times larger with this. And like I said, that first focus card, you know, the first digital piece I did took a month to be able to just feel comfortable where I can work in a digital realm on it. And this came out in 4 hours like this past week. So it's good to as an artist, another important thing to do is to assess your artwork from time to time. um Almost I'm at the point where, see, here's a cool thing about, here's the thing about, I'm going to do a quick sidebar about social media as an artist and using social media. Your first priority with social media is to think of your social media outlets as a portfolio journal. And you're using social media as a way of creating a constant sense of reassessing your work. Because with social media, you can take your artwork that you're doing from your sketchbooks or through your work or whatever, you're putting it up on social media. And you know, just be vulnerable with it. It's okay to be vulnerable with your artwork out there. But by putting it out there on social media and you're thinking it in terms of a social journal for yourself first and foremost, what you're doing is you're creating a way, like when you're sitting in a bed going to bed at night and you're looking back on your social media, like, and going through your feed, you're reassessing your work and you're seeing it chronologically. And I'm at the point now where I've got 15 years of my artwork on social media that I can reassess and go back to. So like, if you're an artist on social media, the first thing to do is to ground yourself into that process of putting the images, putting the videos, putting it up there, and you're talking to yourself. You are the audience on social media, like especially in the beginning, because you are talking to your future self, and you're creating a way to be able to go back in time and assess your work. And especially if you're working on a project like Arcane Arena, I was able to almost every single night be able to flip back through all of, like, really easily flip back through all of the different posts that I made of all of the different progress photos for each of the pieces of artwork I did. And it gave me the ability to see in the timeline my progress. Because if you're not doing the progress, you know, if you can't see that progress, then that's when the fear gets you. Like, I can't do this. But when you can actually see it, that's where it comes. How is a graphic novel coming along? Well, it is coming along really well. Like I said, technically, I haven't started yet. The official beginning of me working on the graphic novel begins at the first snowfall here in Georgetown, and that's when I feel like it. That's when it's going to start. So right now, I'm doing research. I'm doing due diligence. I'm going through and I'm looking uh, like all of the equipment, all of the vehicles, all of the airplanes, you know, all of the types of ammunitions and weapons Um, I'll talk to you later, Kristen. Um, right now, what I'm doing with the graphic novel is I'm experimenting, like this image here, where I'm trying to play with, like, by the time I start for the winter, I want to have the palette down, the line work, kind of the feel and the aesthetic worked out, and also have like a lot of source material, like, historically accurate equipment, what the soldiers were wearing, what the locals were wearing, what the towns look like, what the landscape look like, because I want to make it as accurate as I possibly can. So um, it's progressing. It's just I'm just taking my time with it. I'm not really pushing it really really hard. But the wonderful thing as an artist is when you get down the road and you've pushed through all of those barriers of learning how to use your medium and learning how to do the different skill sets that you need to know, and you'll just have this one experience that just starts opening it up where um, the brush disappears. All right. When you first start out with painting, you're constantly thinking about what you're doing. You're thinking about technique. You're thinking about, am I doing this right? You're thinking about, is the audience going to like this? Like you're constantly thinking about how you're holding the brush, how you're doing your brush strokes. Like you're really like focusing on the mechanics of it. And then there comes a time down the road when, as an artist, you that brush disappears and you just have the image in your mind and you're just doing it on the canvas without even thinking about it. Like riding a bike. When you're first learning how to ride a bike, you're learning about the balance, you're learning how to pedal, you're learning how to start, you're learning how to stop. Your mind is constantly in every single aspect of it. Then one day you get on the bike and it's like you're not even thinking about that anymore. And when you get to that part as a creator, as an artist, or in anything, it's truly a wonderful moment where you're there. You are the process. You're not thinking about the process. And I remember that it was just one day where, like, I had this image that just popped in my head and I needed to get it on the canvas really really quick, and then an hour later it came out just like I imagined it in my mind, and I realized I didn't even think about the brush. I just thought about the image, and the image just happened and my hand did, and the hand just did it. And that's a really really awesome milestone when you get to as an artist. So again, I'm going to go back on the social media. Like, the cool thing about social media for artists or creators, or even with anything like that, you're learning something like roller skating or you're learning a new ability or whatever, is social media gives us the ability to document it. All right. Sort of like this visual journal that is curated chronologically that we can go back to and we can see our progress, because it's really really important as in anything, to see how well you are progressing and assessing that, because it's all about the rate of change. Everything, it's all calculus. Everything in the people's like, when am I going to ever use calculus? You use calculus all the time and you don't even realize it. All right. You use calculus when you're sick. All right. All right. This time when I threw up, do I feel better than the last time that I threw up? Okay, I feel better than the last time I threw up. I'm on the mend. Oh no, I feel worse. Okay, that means I'm going in the other direction. That's calculus. And the rate of change, and the rate of change of something across time. And we do it, we just don't do it in long form. We do it, we just don't realize that we use calculus. Um, but it's about the rate of change. It's about how you're changing as an artist or a professional, and you know, having social media as a way of being able to reassess that. That really accelerated my learning ability. I'm so jealous of all of the kids these days that have the ability to use social media because they're learning stuff fast. And you know, man, if I had YouTube when I was in high school, I would I'd be on the moon by right now. Again, I'm sorry for the latency issues that this I like looks like I've had 22 latency issues. So, luckily I'm recording this and not skipping a beat and keeping it going. Um, oh yeah, progress, rate of change. I mean, even with this stream by itself, like this stream that I'm doing that I started back in December, didn't even have a name back in December. I just started doing it. I'm just like, you know what? Saturday and Sunday, like I'm hanging out in the studio. I might as well start my day by drinking coffee and just having an open little space for people to come say hello and talk about whatever. So um, it was awful. Oh my god! I wonder if the streams are still there from December, January, and February, where it was just like I'm finally starting to feel comfortable in front of talking to a camera live. So, um, you know, because I have all of those recordings now and I've got them up on YouTube, I can go back and look at them and I can see the progress. I can see myself improving. And the more you see yourself improving and getting better, all right, you might not be where you want to be, but you're well far beyond where you started. And you're moving along and you're doing it. And that confidence is starting to build in what you're doing with yourself. And it starts accelerating you. That confidence, like that arcane arena gave me in my ability to do like digital work in a project on the scale of arcane arena, gave me the confidence now that with this graphic novel I know that I can do this graphic novel. I may not know how to do certain things, but I know now that I have the ability to bring a product to market. All right. I have created with my partner a game. We did all of it. We kickstarted it. It was successful. And this weekend, we debuted at our first convention in Gen Con 23. So that right there has given me the confidence where I know I just need the time. Time's always the issue. But I don't have no fear of jumping into the graphic novel at this point. Where 20 years ago, I was just like, I don't know how in my life I am going to be able to do this. Because I remember it was roughly around 2002, 2003 when I first read my uncle's journals, and I was just like, this story needs to be written. This story needs to be out there. And yeah, it that's another example of sometimes the project is so damn strong that the fear doesn't matter because it just keeps pushing like this big mountain trying to come out of my head. And so um but fear is always going to be there, especially if you stop doing what you're doing for a while and you get into a little bit of a cold spell. And last week I had that fear when I was creating this image right here. And I was like, I still don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I still don't know if I'm going to be able. I mean, it's because it's this graphic novel is so out in left field from what I normally do. It's going to kind of come as a little bit of a shock to people when they really find out that I'm doing a graphic novel based on Vietnam War. But after all of the artwork and stuff that I've done, it's a complete left turn. And but it's this is a project that in my life I will be very disappointed if I'm on my deathbed and I didn't do this, or I didn't at least try to do this, or at least got it out there in a way where I can then pass it off to somebody else and they can finish it. Because this story, I feel this story needs to tell. It's I think it's a good healing story. I think it's a good story that is going to give you a perspective of the Vietnam War that hasn't been shown yet. Um, it's going to really portray who I feel and a lot of people who I have talked to, especially Vietnam vets, of who the real enemy was. The enemy was not these people and this culture that have been fighting for thousands of years to keep people out of their country. I mean, you got to respect that. I mean, here's a group of people that like China, Japan, France, like Russia, America, just leave us alone. And I respect that. The problem I feel, and this is with every single war, is ultimately it's the oligarchs, it's the military industrial complex, not the army or the soldiers or even like the generals, even. I mean, because not those that are the enlisted soldiers, they're not the enemy on either side. It's the military industrial complex that is sitting in these big rooms, putting all of these kids at odds with each other and making them fight each other. And a lot of times just for profit, for their own personal profit and their own personal advantage. And I think to me, that's who the real ultimate enemy is. Not the Army, not the Navy, not the Air Force or the Marines. It's the forces that are driving, and a lot of times are the people that are driving these wars are not even the ones that are fighting in them. They're sitting off at a safe distance. And to me, that's really the enlightening part of this whole story is, you know, like, and then the propaganda that they use to mind fuck everybody into validating killing other people and making it like a good thing. And it's just I think it's one of the biggest lessons that we as humans need to like ultimately figure out. Because like, I mean, if we're sitting around killing ourselves constantly, how are we gonna do if we let's if you think about this. I'm gonna go touch about the aliens a little bit that have been in Congress talking about the aliens. If I was an alien and I saw us killing ourselves, why the hell would I want to make contact with us? I would want to monitor them and make sure that we keep it contained and they don't become an issue. Don't make eye contact. Humans are crazy. There's a great, I'm going to need to find it after this and I'm going to post it. Um, Calvin and Hobbes has always been my source of child philosophy as a kid. It was the first forms of philosophy that I started tapping into with Calvin and Hobbes. And there's a Calvin and Hobbes where they're walking through the forest, and Calvin goes to Hobbes, you know, the absolute proof that there is intelligent life in outer space is that they haven't tried to contact us. And I think I'm going to leave it at that because That's kind of how I feel with the whole alien situation is if I was a bunch of advanced alien race and I'm looking down and I've been studying these humans for, millennia as they're evolving and figuring things out, it's like I'm not going down there. They're killing each other. Look what they do to each other. What are they going to do when they see us? I mean, that's the logic behind it, really. I mean, are we as a species deserving of being elevated into a galactic civilization? I mean, we can't even handle aliens, like international aliens from different countries. We're constantly going to war and fighting each other and destroying each other. I mean, I mean, even people that come from the same fabric, the Ukrainians and the Russians, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's differences between the two, but they're still born of the same bread. And why would an alien want to make contact with us if they're observing what we're doing on this planet, what we're doing to this planet? I mean, I guarantee you, all of the intelligent species in the galaxy are watching us and they're like looking at us as a virus that needs to be contained, or else it's going to break out onto the galactic, you know, um, playground and make a mess of things because we have a lot of growing up to do. We really, really do. I don't care what anybody says or validates anything or any reasons or blah, blah, blah. Oh, all of the art. Yeah, well, of Ukraine. You know, I mean, we have a lot of growing up before I think we are even going to be ready to start talking to aliens from other worlds. I mean, that's a whole session of a day just there. But anyhow, I will talk to you later, and you all have a great day.